Hello, my name is Patricia. This is Sizwe podcast. Today we have with us a guest, and her name is Dudu. Dudu wears so many hats. She's a mother, she's a friend, she's a sister. By profession, she's a nurse. She's a songwriter, she's a singer. Dudu is a mother of 3. Today we are going to hear about her journey with a child with autism. Welcome to the studio, Dudu.
Thank you so much for having me today. It's a privilege, it's an honor.
Many of us who are originally from Africa never heard of autism in Africa. Not because it wasn't there, but we didn't know what to name it. Mm-hmm. For me, I heard of autism when I got to Canada. And you have experienced it firsthand. When did you become aware that you had a child with autism?
My son, his name is Nyasha. He's now almost 18. He's one of those kids who, when he was born, his development was so fast. I mean, he walked at 7 months, like really walking at 7 months. He almost did not crawl. I think he crawled for a day or so, then he was up walking, and he developed very well. And at that age, you really cannot tell if there's any mental... for me, I did not see anything that really pointed me that way until he was about 3, and his speech was still a little bit, behind. And we were in England at the time, so we took him for some speech therapy. We moved to Canada around about that time. He continued with speech therapy until he started kindergarten. That's where he was really diagnosed because his development and the expectation of his performance at that time, now that he was at school, there's expectations for him to meet, and he wasn't meeting most of them. And that's when the counselor at the school now referred us to the Glen Rose, and it also took a long time. Eventually we got an appointment, and he was assessed by a multidisciplinary team of doctors, physios, OTs, everybody. And that's when they came up with this a diagnosis of autism. I'm also a professional, a medical professional rather. Not that it did not cross my mind, because I did have a thought, Nyasha might be autistic, but then, like every mother, that's not what you want to think of your son. So I was in denial for a long time, but everything around me pointed that way, that, I had a special needs child. And so with time, I got to know it. When they diagnosed him, that's when I was like, okay, I have to accept this and see how to find out more information and resources on helping my son at that point in time.
For somebody who doesn't know what autism is, how can you explain autism? What is autism?
So autism, it's a very broad spectrum. It is a neurological and developmental disability that affects the way somebody processes information, the way they think, the way they relate, the way they communicate, and the way they behave. So you will realize that people are affected differently. For some, it can be mild in that they can do a lot of things independently, and for some it can really be severe, and that way they need help to actually, do day-to-day things in life. So that is, in a nutshell, what autism is.
Mm-hmm. And for Nyasha, what exactly? So you spoke about speech. What other challenges did he have?
So for Nyasha, initially it was speech, and I really don't think speech is part of this, because now he speaks fluently. I mean, he's not very expressive, so yeah, maybe that way he might be affected. But with him more so, it was, like I said before, his performance not meeting the expectations. Like right now he's 18, but his mental capacity is at a grade 3 level right now. He will like Thomas the Trains, things that kids like right now, because that's where his mind is. So for me, physically, he was fine. Like if you see him right now, he has the physical elements of an 18-year-old, but it's when you talk to him that you realize that he's developmentally delayed with his cognitive function. And so that is where for him the gap is. Socially interacting with people, you have to be reminding him of the appropriateness of this and of that, awareness of danger. For example, when crossing the road, he will just go into the road. So he needs reminding. And for him, unfortunately, because he also has epileptic seizures, so he basically needs one-on-one 24-hour care for his safety. So yeah, those are the things that I noticed with Nyasha. And at school he's had help pretty much with every grade that he has done. Speaking of which, he finally completed his high school this June. So yeah, that's what I noticed about autism with Nyasha.
And emotionally, for you, how did you handle that? I can imagine how difficult it is as a mother, and for you to realize that my child has this thing. What do you say to yourself every day?
I think my faith played a very big role in the way I handled the whole situation. I'm somebody who is a praying mother, and that has really been helpful for me, because with every challenge I would get, I would go to God in prayer and, ask for strength, ask for help. And it has been a journey for me. It has not been easy. Like the first few years, you struggle with things like stigma, shame, how to handle the way people look at you, the way people deal with you, because with autism, you can't just go anywhere. You have to visit families that are receptive of your son's condition, that are long-suffering, that can tolerate him more than, just regular people. So it was hard for us in that we really had to be mindful, or we don't go to public places just like that. We have to have strategies. So for everything, really, we had to strategize on going around with Nyasha, and that was so stressful because you are not free to live life the way other normal families do. So it was emotionally taxing for me. It was definitely discouraging, and then as he grew, he became more physically violent, aggressive, more so with his siblings. And that really did take a toll on me, because I remember there was a time when I almost got crazy. Realistically, I almost got crazy because I could not take it anymore. And that was just before we eventually found a home for him. So right now he's in his own house. He says, this is my house. And he has 24-hour care. So that has really been helpful for me and the siblings, because even them, they were so affected. Their relationship with Nyasha was affected because he was fighting them every day. They were just on each other's necks to an extent that their relationship was strained. Me as a mother, I obviously had to be patient. I had to be strong. I had to, have the tenacity to deal with this. But for them, they could only take so much. And sometimes they would verbalize, "Oh, Mom, I can't wait for Nyasha to go," things like that. And that would be heartbreaking. Wow. But it's some of the things that I would have to deal with and tell myself, you know what, they don't know, they don't understand. And sure enough, they are tired because they are facing these challenges every day, which they don't know how to deal with like I would. So also having friends around who understood, having pastors who really supported me through this, throughout my parents, my siblings, they understand. And so I would have support here and there, but it still doesn't take away the fact that I had to deal with this thing on my own, really, when it came to the reality of it. And so one of the things that I told myself and struggled to had to deliver every day was to show Nyasha that I loved him, despite all the incapacity, all the pain he caused me, because sometimes really we would fight physically. He would give me a blow and then, so, but I had to tell myself that this is my son, my firstborn son, and I love him despite all this. And so even up to today, he's not home, but there's one thing that he's definitely sure of, that my mother loves me, and that it kept him grounded for all these years. Wherever he is, he knows that I'm an anchor in his life. But yeah, it's definitely an emotional roller coaster, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally. It definitely is draining.
And you speak about you being a Christian. You speak about you trusting on God. Was there a time where you were angry at God, saying, why me, why this?
I don't think so. I don't think there was a time I was angry at God. But there were times when I would ask him why, not in anger, but just in saying, like, Lord, when is this going to pass? Because without education, sometimes you might think that this is passing, he will get better. And there are people who get healed of autism, don't get me wrong. And that is the faith I had at the time, and I still have that faith that, in the fullness of time, God will heal my son. But I never got angry with God. I would ask him a lot of questions, though, with time. And I think his word, the knowledge of his word that I had, it helped me maneuver through this. And as Patricia mentioned, I'm a songwriter, I'm an artist. So that has been my runaway to place. It's been my shelter from the storm, especially when it comes to dealing with challenging things in life. Writing songs and worshiping has been my comfort. So I would actually decided, out of all this, I need to be an encourager. So most of the songs that I write are songs that are positive, that help somebody who is in situations like this to think positively, know that God is able, just to give them hope. So that has really helped me and sustained me up to date.
Oh, that's wonderful. And today Nyasha is 18. So you kept Nyasha when he was diagnosed at 5, up to the age of 18. What was the reason behind that? Because you had opportunities to get Nyasha to be taken care of by other people, but you chose to keep your son. What was the reason behind that?
I think for me, I was not ready to let go of Nyasha. He's my child, like I said. I carried him for 9 months, and so for every mother, it's not easy to let go of a child because of their disability. For fathers, anytime they decide it's challenging enough, fathers, they can drop some fathers.
Yes, some fathers.
They can drop the ball. But for mothers, it really has to be a mother that there must be other factors outside of, that would make that mother drop the ball. Normally, for us, it's not easy. So for me, I think that was a driving force, because I remember when he was 9 or 10, the opportunities for him to leave home and be looked after somewhere, they were there, and everything around me was highlighting. Even some family members would highlight, why don't you take him to a place? And For me, I decided to seek for help from the government and look after him at home. So, thank God the opportunities are there in Canada. I got help from outside, got workers to come and help me at home for the longest time. It was just in the last year that it definitely was not feasible anymore to keep him at home, because it was now a hazard even to the siblings. They were fighting, and you know when boys fight and they almost kill each other. And that was on a daily basis for me. Sometimes I would have to call the police, and so I realized it's not healthy. The other kids would now be unhappy, and so I thought I had the responsibility of keeping both of them safe, the siblings and Nyasha as well. So that's when I then accepted the idea of separating them, and then we went through the process, and I was just with him today. Oh my God, he has grown, he's developed, he's doing so much better. I think now I'm happy that I made that decision for him to go where he is, because they really look after him 24/7, which I would not have been able to do that at home with the needs that he has. So I thank God for that. But yeah, it definitely wasn't easy to let go of him. The first day I took him to the place, I was just in tears all day. But yeah, no, God is good. It worked out for good at the end. Yeah.
But now let's talk about the siblings. Do you think you were able to balance the attention to all kids at that particular time? Or the other kids lost your attention that time when Nyasha was home?
I really think I wasn't able to. And it's something that you now see later on in life. Like now my other son, he's 16. And I was telling him the other day, oh, I miss you, you know. Because I realized that as much as we are close, our bond was affected by that. My attention was always with Nyasha, and so even my daughter, she's somebody who will just come to me maybe 6 times a day. She would come and just give me a hug. And I would wonder, why does she do that? Is it something that she's compensating for? Eventually I thought, you know what, I might not have been giving these guys enough attention. And unfortunately that's one of the downsides of the decision that I made to keep Nyasha at home. The other kids suffered the consequences. My middle son, at some point he did have some anger issues, and I was telling him, you know, we need to go for therapy. So I'm one person who always checks on their mental health, and we talk about things. We talk about, you know, how things affect them. Talk to me, be open, and that has helped us through this process. And there are times when they would lose it themselves and say words that are not nice,
that are
unkind about Nyasha, and I would just say, you need to understand your brother, you need to be the bigger person, you need to. So it's been a very challenging time for them too, but I feel like they have grown from it. They have learned so much. They appreciate life differently from a normal sibling with a normal brother. For example, there are things they don't take for granted that other kids take for granted, for example. So, for example, my daughter would understand sharing and being accommodative compared to somebody who has not had that challenge. So, yeah, they have grown as much as it was challenging. And right now that Nyasha is not home, I'm trying by all means to involve myself with them to try and rebuild those times that, you know,
with your younger
definitely kids. Were strained by that situation.
And Dudu, because of your experiences and what you've experienced with your son, you've decided to start an organization. Tell us about that.
So I have decided to start a non-profit organization, and the name of the organization is Autism International Minority Support, and it is to since Nyasha left home, I honestly felt empty because all my life I had been devoted to this thing called Nyasha, and all of a sudden he was gone. So there was a void in me that, you know what, I need to do something and still feel relevant. So I decided with time to start this, and it's to support parents like me who have autistic kids and are on different stages in life. Some of them, our aim is to support parents who were maybe with undiagnosed kids, to help them get diagnosed, to help parents get resources that they have locally that they don't even know about, and on how to deal with the day-to-day challenges of autism, looking at different organizations, teachings, having conferences about all this. So that is the vision that I have, and to do it on an international scale. Fine, we are starting this in Canada, but believe in God that it's going to grow to be an international thing that will change lives all around.
Because it's very important that you make it international. As I said, that I only knew of autism when I got to Canada.
Yes.
Not because we didn't have kids with autism in Zimbabwe. How do they recognize autism? So people need to be aware of these things and be aware that there are resources to help their children.
Yes, that's very true. That's
Thank you very
true.
much for starting that organization, because it's needed, especially in the immigrant communities.
Yes, that's very true. Like, there's so many black families, like me as a black person. I've been through challenges, and unfortunately, wherever you go, racial discrimination is there either way. So I've had to advocate for my son. And so if I had had that kind of help and support, I would have been grateful at that time. That's why I'm deciding to open an organization that supports these people. In Africa, they don't know what autism is, and I'm sure they label it with different things, witchcraft, whatever, and fair enough, some of it might be, but I feel like the lack of education has led to the neglect of those kids, and they treat them like they're misfits. They don't fit into the community, they don't have food, they don't have education just because they don't deserve education. So in courts, by the way. So I feel like this will help make the awareness of what autism is and how these kids being special needs does not make them different. It just makes them special in a way. So yeah, I'm believing God that this will affect a lot of lives out there.
Yeah, because as I know, a lot of families have these children and they keep them home. So for them to be aware that there are resources and this child is not a problem, I can have other women like me who have gone through this. I think your organization is needed so much, especially within our communities, because we are seeing increasing number of autism.
Oh yes. For some reason in black communities, it's increasing. Maybe not. I feel like it's not even the increasing of the
awareness.
It's the awareness that is increasing. It took me so many years to come out and talk about autism. So there are black women out there who might still be ashamed of coming out and talking about it. So we think it's not there, but it's there. It's prevalent. It's just not talked about. And because when you come out, that's when you start finding resources, and that's when you are known, right? So I feel like it's more so the awareness that is growing as opposed to the incidences being less than what they should be. So yeah, I'm hoping that this will help. It's mostly for the minority population, but obviously, you know what, we are not putting caps on there. It's gonna be a worldwide thing by the grace of God.
As I just said, this is Sizwe podcast. Dudu is a mother. She's also a songwriter. So Dudu, how do you get to write your music? You get to write it
oh my
because
God, that's it.
because I know that's your passion.
Yes,
that's
yes,
your safe place.
Yes, I love music. I feel like if music was not there in my life, I would be dead by now.
Oh,
really dead, because it has done so much for me. When I worship, like it's just my safe haven. So I write songs based on experiences, life experiences. I write songs based on what I'm going through at the time. Sometimes God just drops a song from nowhere about anything. So I don't really have one reason, one way of writing songs. It is diverse. Sometimes I can hear a tune and a song just drops, and then I have to work on the rest of the song. So it's but it's a gift that I really appreciate from God. Writing songs for me is not a struggle. It's just in my fingertips, and I thank God for that.
And we have to get you one of your songs here.
Yes.
Because this woman here is a dynamite. When she starts singing,
thank you.
She's just something else.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
Dudu, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope people out there, you spread the word about this AIMS, the Autism International Minority Support Group, and let people know that there is help out there.
Yes, and you are never alone.
Yes.
Okay,
true.
so we'll leave you with Dudu's email or Dudu's website. Thank you.
Thank you so much.